Welcome to Tongueless, the bard's recitals of some of Tamriel's greatest adventures. This is the main quest of Skyrim, Chapter 4, Dragon Rising. Stenvir was glad to see the tree line break at last, riverwood smoking peacefully beside the White River. Lucan nearly wept when he saw the golden claw, but after a hot meal, a few claps on the shoulder, the warrior was back on the road. Whiterun's gates calling him onward. The weight of the Dragonstone rode cold in his pack. Colder still was what he had seen in Bleak Falls Barrow. By the time he crossed the drawbridge and climbed the Dragon's Reach steps, dusk bruised the sky. He ventured through the long hall to where he remembered Farengar's enchantry to be, where he heard voices, sharp, whispered, and too intent to ignore. Stenvir slowed, recognizing the court wizard's nasal certainty, paired with a woman's clipped, guarded tone. Farengar stood hunched over his cluttered table, one finger tapping the cracked spine of an ancient tome. "You see?" he said, excitement sharpening his voice. "The terminology here is unmistakably First Era, perhaps even older. I'm convinced this is a copy of a much earlier text, likely written not long after the Dragon War." The woman beside him, travel-worn, hooded, and deliberately unreadable, folded her arms. Her gaze swept the room, as though expecting danger to step from the shadows. "Good. My employers will be relieved to hear you're making progress. We need answers, Farengar. This isn't one of your theoretical experiments. Dragons have returned." Farengar waved off her urgency, though a nervous twitch betrayed him. Yes, I'm aware. Still, imagine the opportunity to study a living dragon." Delphine cut him off with a quiet click of her tongue. "You have a visitor." Farengar blinked, turning at last, as if noticing Stenvir for the first time. Ah, the Jarl's new protégé. His eyes dropped to the stone tablet in Stenvir's hands, and he let out a delighted gasp. "You actually brought back the Dragonstone from Bleak Falls Barrow. Remarkable. Seems you're a cut above the usual brutes the Jarl sends my way." Delphine's expression didn't shift, but her voice warmed by a degree. "You went into Bleak Falls Barrow and got that," she said to Stenvir. "Nice work. Make sure he sends me a copy when he's done deciphering it." Stenvir had barely finished handing over the Dragonstone when a sharp voice cut across the chamber. Irileth strode in, her steps quick, her expression carved from obsidian. Even among Dunmer, she seemed forged for battle, every movement precise, controlled, dangerous. "Farengar," she said, not bothering with courtesy, "you need to come at once. A dragon's been sighted nearby." Her red eyes flicked to Stenvir. "You should come as well." Farengar's head snapped up from his cluttered worktable, eyes bright with a scholar's misplaced enthusiasm. "A dragon? How exciting! Where was it seen? What was it doing?" Irileth turned on him with a look that could have buckled plate. "I'd take this more seriously if I were you. If a dragon decides to attack Whiterun, I don't know if we can stop it." Farengar's excitement dimmed to a nervous swallow. "Let's go," Irileth said, giving no room for argument. They hurried through Dragon's Reach's great hall and into the Jarl's war room. Balgruuf stood over the long carved table, arms braced against the wood, while a terrified guard lingered near the doorway. Mud still streaked across his boots, sweat shining at his temples. Balgruuf didn't look up as they approached. "So," he said, his voice low and grim, "Irileth tells me you came from the Western Watchtower." "Yes, my lord," the guard said, straightening instinctively though his legs trembled. Irileth gestured sharply. "Tell him what you told me. About the dragon." The guard swallowed. We saw it coming from the south. It was faster than anything I've ever seen." Balgruuf's gaze sharpened. "What did it do? Is it attacking the watchtower?" "No, my lord." The guard's voice cracked, then steadied. "It was just circling overhead when I left. I never ran so fast in my life. I thought it would come after me for sure." Balgruuf exhaled through his nose. a deliberate, controlled breath. "Good work, son. We'll take it from here. Head down to the barracks for some food and rest. You've earned it." Relief washed over the guard's face as he saluted and hurried out. Balgruuf turned to Irilith. "Gather some guardsmen and get down there." "I already have men mustering near the main gate," she replied. "Good." The Jarl's jaw tightened. "Don't fail me." Irilith nodded once, then pivoted sharply and strode out, already barking orders before the door had finished closing behind her. Balgruuf turned to Stenvir. "There's no time to stand on ceremony. I need your help again. I want you to go with Irilith and help her fight this dragon. Gods know you've proved yourself. But I haven't forgotten the service you did for me. As a token of my esteem, please accept this gift from my personal armory. It was indeed an axe, but the steel might have been from the sky. So cleanly it shone." Stenvir accepted it, surprised at the weight, both literal and not. He gave his thanks, and Balgruuf nodded. "May the gods watch over you. Now go. The watchtower won't hold forever." Stenvir turned toward the doors, the axe of white run firm in his grasp. There was no turning back now. Stenvir fell into step behind Irilith. They descended the shadow-bound districts of the Twilight Hill, lanterns swaying overhead. A small army stood gathered by the barracks at the city's gate, their faces pale beneath their helms. They looked up as the Dunmer housecarl entered, her steps brisk, her expression carved from obsidian. "Listen closely," Irilith said. "A dragon is attacking the Western Watchtower." "A dragon?" one of the younger guards gasped. Another muttered under his breath. "Now we're in for it." Irilith's red eyes flashed. "You heard me. A dragon. I do not care where it came from or who sent it. What matters is that it has made the grave mistake of attacking White Run." A third guard swallowed hard, knuckles whitening around the haft of his spear. "Housecarl, how are we supposed to fight a dragon? This is Stenvir. He was there, at Helgen. He escaped the wrath of the dragonfire, and pledges his blade to you now." She paced before them, hands clasped behind her back, voice slow and cutting. "None of us have ever seen such a beast, nor expected to meet one in battle. But we are sworn to defend this city, your homes, your families. Would you still call yourselves Nords if you turned your backs and ran? Will you leave me to face it alone?" "No. Housecarl," they rallied. Irilith halted, her gaze sweeping over Stenvir and the assembled men. "Remember this. It is not only your honor on the line. This is the first dragon seen in Skyrim since the last age. If fate wills it, the glory of slaying it will be ours. Now, what do you say? Shall we go kill a dragon?" She turned, and the gate opened, winds snapping at their cloaks. Stenvir rested a hand on the new weight at his hip, the axe of White Run, and braced himself for what lay upon those plains. They spilled out of White Run like a single rattled heartbeat. Irilith at the front, hard-eyed and relentless, her hand resting on the pommel of her blade, as if daring the world to give her reason to draw it. The four guards trailed behind her, their shields clattering at their sides, muttering half-prayers and half-threats to whatever god still listened. The western road sloped beneath their feet, its grasses flattened by the wind screaming down from the tundra. Snow clouds vaulted over the plains, low and swollen, throwing a pale dusk over the land even though the sun had not yet set. Ahead, the watchtower crouched on its hill like a wounded animal. "Gods!" one of the guards breathed. The Western Watchtower had been reduced to a silhouette of ruin. Flames licked up its sides, devouring beams and roofwork alike. The stones glowed orange at their seams, as if exposed to heat searing and molten. No voices cried out, no movement stirred. The skies, for the moment, were devoid of ancient terrors. Irilith raised a hand, halting the party. The guards pressed into a small outcropping of rock overlooking the tower, crouching low. Stenvir followed, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. "No signs of any dragon right now, but it sure looks like he's been here," she said, her voice low but carrying. "I know it looks bad, but we've got to figure out what happened, and whether that dragon is still skulking around somewhere. Spread out and look for survivors. We need to know what we're dealing with." The platoon fanned out, boots crunching over brittle charcoal and splintered shields. The ruined watchtower loomed above them, its stones blackened, as though by the breath of oblivion itself. Stenvir's heart thudded harder, with each corpse they uncovered. Each man burned where he stood. Then a ragged shout cracked from the tower's upper turret. "No! Get back!" a guard cried, leaning over the shattered parapet. His face was pale beneath streaks of soot. "It's still here somewhere." Croaky and Tor just got grabbed when they tried to make a run for it. Irilith stepped forward, her hand already on her blade. "Guardsman! What happened here? Where's this dragon? Quickly now! I don't know!" the man shouted back, voice breaking. "Kinnereth, save us! Here he comes again!" A shadow passed over the ground, immense, winged, impossibly fast. Irilith's eyes sharpened. "Here he comes! Find cover, and make every arrow count." The air itself seemed to tense, bracing for fire. From the south, something vast moved against the clouds. Stenvir felt it before he fully saw it. An ancient pressure in the air, a weight on his blood, a name whispered in the marrow of. His bones. This wasn't the beast that had attacked them in Helgen, though it had a name Stenvir knew instinctively. Mirmulnir. The dragon that had torn the watchtower apart rose into view with a thunderous beat of wings, sending coils of smoke rolling across the charred field. Its scales glimmered like scorched iron, its eyes burned with an old and terrible intelligence. One guard, alert enough to act, wrenched a war horn from his belt. "Gods preserve us," he breathed, then sounded the alarm, 3 sharp, shuddering notes that trembled through the ruins. Still he held the horn to his lips as the firestorm descended. Irilith's voice cut through the chaos like a drawn blade. "Scatter and get behind cover. We need to hurt it. Somehow, if you've bows or spells, use them now." The formation broke. Men and women dove behind boulders and collapsed beams, fumbling for arrows, trembling as they nocked their shots. The first volley loosed upward, thin, hopeful streaks against the storm-dark sky. Mirmulnir answered with fire. A plume of blazing breath swept across the field, turning ash to glass. Stenvir felt the heat sear his cheek as he threw himself behind the blackened ribs of a fallen roof. Then came the cold, an exhalation of frost that sheathed the ground in ice and felled 2 guards mid-step, their bodies stiffening where they stood. "Move! Keep moving!" Irilith barked, sprinting through the chaos, sword raised. "Don't give it a clear shot!" The dragon climbed higher, wings beating thunder over the watchtower. It banked wide, preparing another pass. The soldiers fired again. Mirmulnir reared, roared, and lost height in pained anguish. "Drive him down!" The beast crashed into the field with the force of a falling boulder, dirt and fire erupting around it. The ground quaked beneath Stenvir's feet. Irilith charged. The soldiers rallied around her battle cry. Stenvir tightened his grip on the axe of Whiterun, its polished edge catching the glow of nearby fires. Mirmulnir snapped at the guards, scattering them like dry leaves. Its tail lashed, crushing a shield-bearer's ribs. Stenvir saw an opening, sprinted through the smoke, and leapt. He brought the axe down with both hands. Angling the arcing head against the grain of the scales, he drove the weapon into the gap where scale layers overlapped, burrowing deep into the dragon's thick-muscled neck. A shudder passed through the dragon. Rage, disbelief, something older. It writhed, bellowing, wings beating uselessly against the ground. Stenvir tore the weapon free and struck again. This time, the cry that left Mirmulnir's throat was not a roar, but a word. A sound that resonated inside Stenvir as if spoken within his own skull. Yol. Fire. Meaning. Power. The creature's eyes rolled toward him. No hatred remained, only recognition and fear. Dovahkiin? It rasped, the word grinding like boulders. No. Its final breath rattled across the plain. Smoke drifted from the ruin of its wings. The guards stared in astonishment. Irilith lowered her sword, chest heaving with exhaustion. Stenvir stood over the dying beast, the axe of White Run dripping with dragon blood, feeling something stir inside him, something old, impossible, newly awakened. Then something happened that even Stenvir could not have anticipated. Wind spiraled inward, tugging at cloaks, lifting ash from the ground. He staggered as the dragon's corpse seemed to collapse in on itself, flesh withering, scales burning away in ribbons of golden light that coiled around him like living fire. He gasped. The world dimmed. A voice, not a voice, echoed through his bones. When the light finally faded, Mirmulnir was nothing but a smouldering skeleton. A guard approached slowly, eyes wide, as though stepping toward a god, or a monster. I can't believe it, he breathed. You're Dragonborn. Stenvir blinked, the words sinking in like cold water. Dragonborn, the title felt enormous, impossible, like being handed a crown forged from thunder. What do you mean? He managed, voice raw from smoke and shouting. The guard swallowed, gaze flicking to the smouldering skeleton behind him. In the oldest tales, back when Skyrim still shook under dragon wings, the Dragonborn were the only ones who could stand against them. They slew dragons and stole their power. His voice dropped, almost reverent. That's what you did, isn't it? You absorbed the dragon's soul. Stenvir wanted to deny it, laugh it off, insist he was just a man with an axe given to him by a Jarl, who likely thought he would die before sunset. But the truth hummed beneath his ribs, alive, undeniable. Something ancient and vast now coiled in his blood, waiting. The guards stared at him, as if he had stepped out of one of their grandmother's fireside tales. Their helms were smeared with ash, their cloaks scorched, their faces raw from the dragons. Heat. Yet all of them looked only at him, at the man still holding the smoking axe of White Run, standing beside the dragon's burning skeleton. That was the hairiest fight I've ever been in, Irilith said, approaching. And I've been in more than a few. I don't know anything about this Dragonborn business, but I'm damn glad you were with us. You should return to White Run. The Jarl will want to know what happened here. I'll hold command until we can send word and gather the bodies. Go. Before the beast's heat finishes what's left of this tower. Stenvir nodded and stepped away from the ruins, the wind rising behind him like a departing spirit. He had barely reached the road when the air split. A thunderous cry rolled down from the mountains, the very stones trembling beneath his boots. A single word, immense and ancient, broke against the sky. Dovahkiin! The shout echoed across the tundra, fading slowly, like a wave withdrawing back into the clouds. Stenvir felt the vibration travel through his ribs, lingering where the dragon's soul had settled moments before. By the time he returned to White Run, Balgruuf was waiting in the war room, tense and tired but steady as the city's walls. The watchtower is destroyed, Stenvir reported, but the dragon is dead. Balgruuf released a long breath. I knew Irilith wouldn't fail me. But there must be more to this than a simple victory. His eyes narrowed. The men say you may be something called Dragonborn. That's just what they called me, Stenvir replied. Not just the men. Balgruuf leaned forward. The greybeards seemed to think the same thing. Stenvir blinked. The greybeards? Masters of the Way of the Voice, the Jarl said. They live in seclusion, high on the throat of the world. If the legends hold any truth, the Dragonborn is born with the ability to wield the voice, though training sharpens it. What do they want with me? Balgruuf stepped closer, lowering his voice. You heard that shout a moment ago from the mountains? That was the Greybeards. They called you, summoned you. If you truly are Dragonborn, they can teach you what that means. Teach you to master what already stirs in your blood. A long quiet fell between them, broken only by the crackle of the war room's hearth. Go to High Hrothgar, Balgruuf said, almost gently. Few are ever called by the Greybeards. Fewer still answer. But the world has changed, Stenvir. Dragons have returned, and Skyrim needs you